Everybody could join us this afternoon. I do see a few familiar names, so it's nice to see that. And so I get the last in the series, so we're right at the end of structure and registration. So we're going to cover a little bit about generalities. So my disclaimer for the beginning of the program is the fact that the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, cannot provide legal or financial tax advice. So this presentation is not to replace the advice of a qualified accountant or attorney, but basically to get you familiar with the terminology and the options for a small business owner. We do encourage you to seek out professional advice. However, we have a lot of clients that are interested in, can they do it by themselves? What do we need? So this is going to cover all of that information. So we're going to start with just a general overview of the business structures. The four principal types of business structures are the sole proprietorship, partnerships, which are general or limited liability companies, and corporations. So when we have questions from clients, these are the business structures that are of most interest to our clients. And there's our disadvantages and advantages to each. And as a business owner, it would be up to you to meet with people to decide which would be the best fit for your business and for your overall end game. So if you are going to be the only person involved in your business, but you hope to develop say an app that you want to have investors give you money for, then you may not want to be a sole proprietorship. You may want to be a corporation so that you can sell stock and to raise capital that way. So everybody's situation is different. So once you decide exactly what business path you are taking, that's when you should consult your legal professionals, your accountant, to determine if that is the best decision for you, which type of organization.
Don't leave it back there though.
Sole proprietorship, basically, it's the simplest form of organization. We have a lot of people that start out as sole proprietorships and then they expand to an LLC or a corporation, especially if they want to bring in other people or if they want to hire employees. So a lot of reasons that the sole proprietorships are popular is they're very easy. There's minimal paperwork to set up. There's very few legal restrictions. All the profits go to the owners. You don't have to worry about sharing with anyone. And it's easy to discontinue the business. You just shut your door and you're done. Some of the disadvantages, the biggest one is unlimited personal liability. So this liability, you are liable for all debts of your business. Plus, should something happen in your business and a person decides to sue for an incident that happens, both your commercial interests as well as your personal interests are open for litigation. One of the one of the other difficulties, like we mentioned earlier, was the limited ability to raise capital. And if you're looking to pass your business on to a son, daughter, relative, whatever the case may be, you cannot do that with a sole proprietorship. They would have to open their own business. The limited liability company, by far, this is one of the most advantageous organization structures. So the limited liability companies are very popular because they have limited personal liabilities for the debts and the actions of the business. So if you were to sell makeup and someone had a severe adverse reaction to the makeup and they decided that they were going to sue you for personal damage and mental anguish, if you are a sole proprietor, then they are able to potentially go after not only your business assets, but your personal assets as well. You don't want anybody attaching your house or going after your personal bank accounts or putting a lien on anything. With the LLC, that liability is limited to what is available through the company name. And this is why a lot of business people go into an LLC. So the limited liability company is very flexible. It talks about pass-through taxation. So pass-through taxation basically is, because you are the sole member of that LLC, any money that that LLC makes will go to you directly, rather than if you had a corporation, the business profits gets taxed, and then when get the money from the business corporation to you, then you would get taxed. So that's considered double taxation. The limited liability company avoids that. Keep in mind that if you do have a limited liability company, you still have to pay certain contributions to Medicare and Social Security. And again, this is where your accountant would come into play. There are a few types of businesses that cannot be LLCs, such as banks, insurance companies, nonprofit organizations. They have designations set up for them in particular. Partnerships. My background is I worked in banking for many, many years. I don't even want to tell you how long, but partnerships were the bane of my existence in the banking world. So if you're even considering remotely a partnership, please see an attorney. They are very convoluted is a nice way to put them. Whenever I meet with clients and they tell me they want a partnership, I just, right there, I stop it and I'm like, okay, do you realize what you're getting into? For example, in the banking world, I had 2 doctors that were in a partnership, which was fine, you know, that happens all the time. And one of the partners decided to pull a large sum of money out of the partnership account and use it for, I believe it was like a down payment on a house. And it was, you know, 6 figures that they took. Let's say partner A took the money. Partner B came in and said, hey, where's all my money? And well, partner A took it. Well, then partner B wanted to sue the bank because we gave his money away. Unfortunately, that's not the way it works. Because you are a partnership, partner A and partner B have the same rights to all those funds. So you really have to make sure that you are covered if you're going into a partnership. So there are 2 different types of partnerships, the general partnership and the limited partnership. The general partnership is basically you're unprotected from any lawsuits against the business. Your personal assets can be seized to cover any debts of the business. Each partner is liable for the action of the others. So if partner A and partner B have a company and partner B decides to sign an agreement, a contract to provide a service, and partner A didn't want to do it, doesn't matter. Partner A still has to go along with it because partner B said that they would. So it's things like that that really can make it a challenge to run a partnership. Again, partnership, see an attorney. So the limited partnership, not much better. A limited partnership basically tells the business world who has unlimited liability and what kind of liability you are subject to. So limited partners can only be, if you're going through a legal action, they cannot lose more money than that they have contributed to the partnership. However, the liability is the fact that you cannot participate in management of the company. Only the general partners can do the management of the company. So basically you're contributing money. Yes, you can't lose it, but again, you have no say over the management of that company. Again, partnership, see an attorney. If you think of nothing else through this, just remember, if you're looking at a partnership, see an attorney. Corporations. Corporations can be very paperwork heavy. They have a lot of coverage so that you are protected in many ways. Corporations, you can only do what is restricted in the corporate charter. Most business activities are defined in very broad terms, and you can kind of deviate from there. So if you have a corporate charter where you're selling cars and then you decide to open a garage that you can fix them, that's okay, you know, because it's specified in a non-committed way in the charter of the corporation. You may have heard reference to Chapter S or Chapter C Corp, and that has to do with taxation. So the C corporations, they follow income tax rules regarding income with adjustments. The S corporations, you can use the PA personal income tax rules. You'll see a lot of LLCs that are taxed as an S corporation. Again, this goes back to make sure you talk to your accountant. So what that means is that gives a larger LLC the benefit of several write-offs so that you end up paying less in taxes. Again, that is something that your accountant would advise you to do. You see it a lot when people start small and then they grow, and you're starting to make maybe $50,000, $60,000 a year on your LLC. What they do then is they say, okay, we need to get some tax breaks to make sure that you're not paying all this money. And again, that's going to be led by your accountant, that conversation. The corporations, the advantages of having stock, again, you can raise money by selling stock. You can get out of a corporation easily. So if you and a group of people form a corporation and you said, that's it, I'm done, I made my money, I'm gonna go retire to Aruba, that's great. All you have to do is sell your shares and get out of the company. The company will live on without you. Whereas a sole proprietor, the company does not live on. The disadvantages are extensive record keeping, very close regulations, and the double taxation we addressed earlier. Again, the double taxation would be the profits in the corporation are taxed, and then when you get paid by the corporation, you're paying taxes on that same money a second time. Registration. There's a lot of different forms in regards to registering your company. As a sole proprietor, you really don't have to register anything. You can just hang out your shingle and say, here I am, let's go. The exception to that is the fictitious name agreement. So what a fictitious name form is, if you are operating under any other name than the legal name of your company, then you have to file a fictitious name agreement. So if I were going to open Lucy Singer's sewing shop, as long as my name is in there, everything is fine. But the minute I change the name of the company and I start operating as Singer's Sewing Shop, then I have to file a fictitious name form. The state of Pennsylvania says that the consumer has a right to know who owns the business that they are dealing with. And for that reason, you have to file this form so that if something were to happen and you were to go after Singer's Sewing Shop, they know who actually owns the business. Okay. Partnership, same thing. You have to have your certificate of limited partnership and a partnership agreement. The fictitious name form, again, is only needed if you're operating under a name other than what your partnership name is. Limited liability, you need an organization of domestic LLC, and they have what's called a members agreement. And basically that says who can do what in the organization, what they're liable for, and the extent of their control over the corporation. Again, if you're operating under something other than your LLC name, you do need a fictitious name agreement. At one point in time, whenever you did a fictitious name agreement, you would have to publish it in the newspaper. You would have to publish it in the local law library. That has been waived for the limited liability company because of the way that the state forms are set up. But anything else, you would need to publish it. For example, a corporation. The corporation, you would need the articles of incorporation, a docketing statement, the operating agreement, which is your bylaws, and a fictitious name form, again, if it's necessary. Even though you will be, let's say you have this fictitious name form, this, because it is a corporation, would need to be published in the local law register as well as the local newspapers. So registration. Registration is pretty straightforward. So basically on the federal side, you need to get an EIN number. and employer identification number. The only time you don't need that running a business is if you are sole proprietorship with no employees. As soon as you get an employee or change your organization structure, you need to get an EIN. You can operate as a sole proprietorship and get an EIN, which I would probably recommend if I were to be an attorney. That keeps your social security number off of the public records, okay? It's easy to obtain. You go to www.irs.gov. Once there, you just follow the prompts to obtain an EIN, and this is free of charge. On the state level, we have what's called the Business Hub for Pennsylvania. So you would go to the hub and you would look for your registration forms for your company. So let's say you're going to do an LLC. On the Business Hub, that is your center where you go to access all the sites from Pennsylvania. So once you register on the hub, you would go to, it's called PenFile. And on PenFile, you would be able to find all the paperwork that you would need to register an LLC. The registration cost for an LLC is $125. I get a lot of people that say, you know, I went to LegalZoom and it was like $900 or $1,200 because they did all these add-ons and they don't realize that all these extra things are costing them money. When you go to an attorney to do an LLC, you're paying for their time, which is completely understandable. So depending on your own situation and how you are set up, you can either do it yourself or you can pay someone else to do it. Also for the state, you have to, if you're selling something that requires you to collect sales tax, if it's a taxable service, or if you're selling something that is a taxable product, something tangible. If you are in a salon and you're selling the shampoos and you're selling the conditioners and the masks, you would have tax on those. The tax that you collect from your customer is what you would pay to the state of Pennsylvania. You don't keep that. So what happens is you go to the PA 100 to register your business so that when you do collect sales taxes, you can pay them directly from your checking account, your business account. And you would do that through this third step, which is eTides. eTides is the Pennsylvania business tax system. You would sign in and you would say, okay, you know, I collected $400 in taxes, here you go, and you pay it to the state. That can be done on a quarterly basis or an annual basis as the business starts to become older. It usually starts out as a quarterly payment, and then they knock it down to semi-annual, and then it's an annual payment if you so desire. I have a lot of clients that their accountants handle this for them. They just tell their accountant, okay, you know, I had X amount of dollars in sales. And then the accountant will say, okay, we're going to send out this much for a sales tax payment. This way you're not bogged down at the end of the year with this one big lump sum of sales tax. Local. Before you even start anything, make sure you check with your local municipality where you will be operating business to determine if it is okay with their zoning laws. This is a huge one. So many people come back and they're like, oh, I have to change this or I have to alter that because I found out that, you know, I can't operate a bakery here because it's too close to a residential section. Or, you know, I had a client that wanted to operate a food truck business, which was great. She had everything. She had the money, she had the schooling, she had the knowledge, she had the truck picked out. Everything was great. Only to find out that she could not put her truck on her personal property because her zoning laws would not allow it, which meant now she has to go find somewhere to park the truck and incur an extra cost. And it just wasn't worth it from what she found out that she would have to pay in order to store that truck so it would be secure. So make sure you check with your zoning laws. Make sure that the building that you want to occupy is okay for a commercial business. Basically zoning laws, they're fairly easy. They just want to make sure that you're not going to be disrupting the neighborhood. So you're not going to be having deliveries come in all day and all night, or you're not having customers come to your business, interrupting the flow of traffic. So definitely check with your local zoning before you start with anything. So I get a lot of this. So I can form a business on my own. Yes, you can, but should you is the question. Again, it depends on everybody's situation. So if you're a sole member or a limited liability company, sole proprietor, it's fairly straightforward. All the information is out there through the state websites that you can register yourself. Not a problem. We help people do that all the time. As soon as I get a client that wants to form a company with more than one person, I usually refer them out to either Penn State Law or their own attorney or accountant. Basically because on the website for the state, there are two things that they don't really go into detail about, especially for a limited liability company. So one of them is the certificate of authority. So basically the certificate of authority, it puts a limitation on the members of the LLC and what they can do to legally bind the company. Back to that idea of, let's say you have member A and member B. Member B decides that they want to enter into a contract that will bind the limited liability company into doing something. Member A doesn't want to do it. Without this certificate of authority, you may be forced to do it or forced not to do it, depending on how you look at it. An operating agreement is another item that is not included on the PA site. The operating agreement basically breaks down the relationships of the members of the LLC. And it defines the rights and the duties of the member, what they can and they cannot do. We're finding more and more when people go to a bank to open a bank account for their business, the banks are now asking for this operating agreement. There are general ones out there, and that's fine, especially if you are a sole member. It's kind of a fill it in yourself form. It doesn't have to be registered anywhere, but you just have to have it for the bank. So the operating agreement basically says who is able to sign for the company. Are they able to write checks? Do they have borrowing authority? Can they file for a loan on behalf of the company? All of this is spelled out in the operating agreement. Again, if you're a sole member and it's just you, that's easy, so that's pretty straightforward. However, once you start getting more people into that business, you are looking at more complications. There was a recent case where a company had members A, B, and C, we'll call them. So they had a bakery. Everything was going great. Everything was wonderful. They started making money hand over fist. It was fabulous. A larger bakery came in and said, oh, we want to buy you. Partners A and B, they were all for selling. Partner C said, oh no, I think we can hold out for more. You would think that the majority rules, but in this case, it did not. So make sure you have these certificate of authority and operating agreement if you have more than one member. Licensing. There are a lot of licenses in Pennsylvania. So, and again, depending on your company, it's what is required. So if you sell taxable items or perform a taxable service, again, you have to have a sales tax license. Back to the idea of signing on at the hub, that's where you would get your sales tax license. In the state of Pennsylvania, it is a 6% sales tax. It's interesting to see, we do a lot of people that have questions on Etsy. Etsy is a big selling site. And they're like, well, I'm selling all over the country. Etsy has a very nice tool so that if somebody buys a product and they are in West Virginia, they are paying the West Virginia tax and Etsy will automatically send that out. So that is a very popular option. The Retailer's Information Guide, published by the state of Pennsylvania, will let you know if your business is required to collect and remit sales taxes. So if you are providing a service such as auto repairs, you don't get taxed on the service, you get taxed on the parts. So that's one option. But if you are a headhunter, for example, some of those services are taxable. So you really have to make sure you check with the Department of Revenue to see if your business is taxable or not. Also, you're looking at the PA 100. That will also help you determine the types of taxes for which you may be liable. It might be Social Security tax, your Medicare taxes on there, everything of that nature. With the e-Tides, back to that again, with the licensing, you would be able to electronically file all your payments and any of your returns for the state sales tax. So registering your enterprise with the state of Pennsylvania, again, is the PA 100. But you also have to look at the Bureau of Professional and Occupational Affairs. There are many licensing boards. This is where you're going to find the boards for hair salons, funeral directors. And this is the Pennsylvania Licensing System, or PALS. This is the professional licensing. So if you are a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, it's there. There are some odd ones there as well. I had a client that wanted to go into a business flying drones over houses for roofing companies. The thought process was, I'm going to fly the drone over your house, check out the roof so nobody has to climb up on it, especially if it's dangerous. I'll film it, video it, and we can see exactly what needs to be done, and we can price it out from there. Only to find out, because you are using a drone during the course of a business, you would have to get a license from the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. Who knew? I didn't know. Found it out, but I was like, oh, who knew? So there are a lot of things out there that you really would have to investigate, especially for a technological sort of business. So if you're looking at a servicing business, you're not going to run into a lot of these technical things, but the licensing system is a good place to review to make sure that there's nothing there that involves your particular type of business. Some of these common questions are the ones we get all the time, so I thought I'd throw them out there. So, do I need a fictitious name agreement? Kind of covered that. As long as you're operating under the name of your organized business, you do not need a fictitious name agreement. The minute you change your business name or operate under something different, you would need a fictitious name agreement. Can I register a business myself? Yes, you can. Should you? That was the different question. Again, if it's just you, it's very straightforward, very simple. The minute you bring in a second person, that's when you should start seeking more qualified advice. How much does an LLC cost if I do it myself? It's $125. Everything else is basically free. There may be some licensing issues with the PALS system, but in most cases, it's just the matter of you obtain that license, you just have to make sure that you provide it. So why form an LLC rather than a sole proprietorship? It's not like you're going to be making a ton of money. So it's not the matter of the fact that you're making a lot of money or not making a lot of money. It's the fact that you want to protect all your personal assets, keeping your personal assets separate from your business assets. One of the things that we cover in the first step class is the fact that you have a limited liability company doesn't solve everything. So make sure that you keep everything separate. So if you have to make your car payment and you have no money in your personal account, but you have money in your business account, make sure you use the money from the business account, write yourself a check, because you can take a draw on your account, put that check into your personal account, and then pay your car payment. Because if you take your money from your business account and pay your personal car payment, if something were to happen and they were to look at the transactions, they would see that you're mixing your funds and you could potentially lose that limited liability. So if you are an LLC, make sure you keep everything separate to keep that veil intact. We get this one a lot. I used LegalZoom, Volution, Swift Filings. A lot of them are out there. And now they tell me that I have to pay $90 a year for a registered agent. I don't even know what a registered agent is. So basically, a registered agent, when you have a company and you get a letter or some sort of writ from the government, you must have someone able to accept this. When you have LegalZoom or Volutions or Swift Filings, they're signing on as your agent so that any legal filings would go to them and then they would get it out to you. If you are operating in your business and you're there, 18 hours a day, obviously you're going to be there to get any writ or filings that are delivered to you. So do you really need a registered agent? If you're, again, depends on what your business is. If you travel a lot or if you're out of the office a lot, then yeah, you might want a registered agent. And you say, okay, well, I'm in my shop 18 hours a day. I do my book work there. All I do is go home and eat and shower and sleep, and then I'm right back. Okay, that's fine. Can I switch it to someone else? Yes, there is a form on, again, the hub that you can go to switch the registered agent back to yourself. I get this one a lot too. I went online to get an EIN and they told me there was a charge of $45. I thought it was free. Make sure you go to irs.gov. There are a lot of sites out there that will get you an EIN number and they will charge you. However, if you do it yourself at the correct site, it can be free, or it is free. Do I have to publish an announcement in the paper and legal register when I start my LLC? Not the LLC. Corporation? Absolutely. Sole proprietorship? In most cases, yes, especially if you are operating under a fictitious name agreement. What do I need to know about opening a checking account for my small business? When I assist people in setting up their business organization, I tell them to make 4 copies of all the paperwork. That would be the EIN that they get the confirmation from the IRS. It would be the LLC paperwork that they get from the state. And if they have the operating agreement, all of that, make 4 copies. You'll need one for your insurance company, one for your bank, one for your accountant, and one for your personal files for the business. When you go to the bank, they're going to ask for these items, and a lot of banks no longer will open a business account without these items. So when you shop around for a business checking account, a lot of banks have what they might call small business checking. A small business checking account might limit your transactions. They might say you can't have more than 300 transactions in the month. Okay, I'm a small business, so I have more than 300 transactions in a month. That'll be fabulous. But as you get more transactions, they start charging you. So like anything else, shop around. If they're telling you you have to pay $15 a month for a monthly service charge just to get your statement, see if you can get your statement online. Oh, that's free. Okay. So like anything, just shop around. Ask about fees. Is there a statement fee? Do I have to pay a fee if I get a debit card for my business checking? These are all the things that you want to take a look at. The next one is going to be, we get a lot of calls on this, so I registered my LLC, got my paperwork last week, everything is good. And now today I got a notice that says I have to buy labor posters. Do I need labor posters? The Department of State calls this I forgot how they put it, but it's a scam, but it's a legitimate scam, more or less. Do you need labor posters? Yes. Do you have to pay for them? No, you can get them free from the Department of Labor. Okay. It's the same thing that there's a letter out there saying that, oh, congratulations on your LLC. You must now get a certificate of good standing. There is no such thing as a certificate of good standing. There is a certification from the state if someone needs it, but these companies, they'll see, because they are registering your company is a public event. They'll see who registered an LLC, they'll pull these lists, and then they'll start sending mailings out. So they'll say, okay, you have an LLC, you have to buy labor posters. It's $87.50. If you don't have them, you're going to get fined. And people are sending out $87.50. They get these labor posters, and either A, they didn't need them because they're the only person working in their shop, or B, they're free if you go to the Department of Labor. Same thing with the certificate of good standing. I think it's $125 that they ask for the certificate of good standing. Again, not something that you need. If you get anything like that, you can certainly call us, or you can just go to the Department of State at pa.gov and look at scams, and they will tell you what is necessary and what your alternatives are. And don't forget insurance. There's lots of insurance out there. One of the best investments you can get, make sure at the very least you have general liability insurance, but there are so many other different types of insurance that's out there. Again, check with your qualified professionals to see exactly what your business needs and how it would be best suited for you. Okay. All right. And that is our presentation for tonight. I know it's a lot of information and it can kind of be overwhelming. And again, if you have any questions, certainly feel free to, ask. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and be more than happy to address anything that we can.
Yes, I have two questions.
Sure.
My first question was just about the information that you stated about the good standing letter and the posters.
Yes.
So I did receive that.
Okay.
I received both of them.
Okay.
Some brand new LLC just formed, haven't done anything quote unquote yet. And I was thinking, do I really need a poster when everything is just in my house? I'm on my computer. I'm just in research stage kind of thing.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure I heard you correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need the good standing letter, but
Right.
do I need the poster, even if it's just me? Say it again.
The posters you do not need. The posters, the only time you need the posters if you have employees. If it's just you working in your office, then you do not need any posters. Okay. And again, if your business starts to expand and you do get an employee, then yes, you would have to get a poster.
Okay.
But you go to the Department of Labor and they will send them to you for free.
So once I have an employee, I do need a poster.
Yes. To let them know their rights.
So where would I put that at if everyone is just like, this is for a short-term rental? So like running an Airbnb.
Okay.
I would just be sending a cleaning crew to the house to clean up, or a handyman to the house to make repairs. So where would how would I do that?
And that might even be a fact of you give them copies of them and have them sign off on them and say, I did receive such and such. And again, you can check that with the Department of Labor because, things change and I don't want to give you the wrong information, but they would definitely tell you what your alternative would be, so I subcontract out, but, if I get them to acknowledge that these were distributed to them, that would work.
Okay, that's good information.
Again, the certificate of good standing, the state doesn't recognize that at all. They do have what's called a certificate of registration, if anybody wants it. I don't usually see a need for it. I sometimes see a need for it if it is going for government contracting and it's an old LLC. They might ask for the certificate of registration. And all it is a stamped copy that, yes, you are operating in, yes, it's a valid LLC. And again, it's $40, but it's a lot less than the $87 that these scams are asking you for.
And I received 2 letters for both of them, like more than once, 2 or 3 times they sent the letter to you.
Oh, yeah. I know. And you'd be surprised how many people actually go because they look so legitimate.
They do. They really do. So, thank you for that information.
No problem. Thank you for asking.
Sure. I have one more question. I don't know if it's a general question, but for the CBDC program, do I need to be like in your area to get help with something? Like, do I need to be like in the Wilkes-Barre area, or can I go with any? I think they're broken up by, I don't know if they're broken up by counties. I was a little confused between this one, and then I'm getting emails from SCORE, and I was like, okay, I was trying to keep up what webinars I was attending and who I was going with.
Education is never lost. And when you're running your own business, the more you know is fabulous. So
Yeah.
the SBDCs, we are located all across the country, but in the state of Pennsylvania, I think there's 13 or 15, and you are right. They're broken down by counties.
Okay.
And most of them are located in schools, whether it be Bucknell or Temple or, the University of Scranton. So what you can do is you can type in SBDC and then your county name, and it'll tell you which SBDC that you should be registering with to get your one-on-one counseling with.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
Did anybody else have any other questions? Okay.
No, I just wanted to say thank you. This was a great presentation.
Oh, good.
The information was great, covering those questions at the end. Great job. I loved it. And I'm actually in the process of referring someone to you guys right now.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. When you do these things, a lot of people are hesitant to like speak up and say, oh, I have a question. So I thought I would kind of like give our most common ones right at the end there. So that.
Yeah, no, that was great.
Good. Oh,
that
good.
Was great. Thank you very much.
We'll make sure to do that in the future then. I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, Lucy.
Hello, how are you?
Good. A lot of people file LLCs when they should file LLC subchapter S, and they don't find out till they do their taxes that they filed wrong.
Right. And then again, that's the reasoning behind the whole idea of, check with your accountant to see what is most appropriate for your particular situation.
Most people don't realize there's a subchapter S.
Right. And that comes with a lot of benefits. Yeah. It does. And it's, again, make sure that it's appropriate for your business. And that's why we definitely refer people to, check with your accountant to make sure that this is the way that you want it done.
Right.
Yes. Thank you so much for your input. You're right.
I noticed the registration. There's a whole list. All the contractors have to be registered and put that on everything, their paperwork, their truck, everything.
Right. The HIC, the Home Improvement Contractor's License. Right. And in order to do that, again, you would have to make sure you have the insurance coverage.
Right.
And make sure that what you're doing, whether it falls under the coverage for the Home Improvement Contractor's License. We get a lot of questions on that from landscapers. And it's the idea of if you're cutting grass once a week, you don't need a home improvement contractor's license. But as soon as you start building that retaining wall, you need a contractor's license.
Yeah, let's see, what was the other one? Okay.
Are there any other questions before we wrap up tonight?
It's very good.
If not, I just have a few housekeeping notes that I'd like to share with you. First, I'd like to thank Lucy for being here with us this afternoon and sharing her presentation. I will be making available the recording of this training on the Wilkes University SBDC YouTube channel, and I will email that link to all the attendees. Also, since this was the last session in our series, I'll be emailing all attendees the link to a post-event survey, just so that we can determine which of our resources will best suit your needs and what topics you would like to see as training sessions in the future. Also, we have 2 new webinars coming up. The first is how to attract and retain top performers, and that will be held on this Thursday, February 11th at noon. And we also have a cybersecurity for the small business and remote worker webinar, and that will be held on February 26th at noon. And as with all of our webinars, you can sign up for these through the eCenter. And with that, I want to thank everyone for attending this session. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at the SBDC. I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you at future webinars. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.